Built by horse players for horse players, AmWager is designed for speed, power, and ease of use. AmWager brings CAW-style tools to everyday horse players, including Dutching, ABC Ticket Maker, and Pro Percent, an advanced betting tool that lets you assign weighted percentages and build multiple structured wagers with a single click. Every month, AmWager turns the odds in your favor with 0% takeout on select tracks. These promos offer you up to $100 more for your winning bets and giving you value for your wagers not offered anywhere else. Rated 4.7 stars on Google with over 200 reviews, AmWager is trusted by horse players who expect more from their wagering platform. If you're looking for better tools and better value, you need AmWager. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit amwager.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 or older where applicable. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE.
Welcome to the Sport of Kings podcast, episode 371, sponsored by AmWager. Go to amwager.com to see all their promotions, including the upcoming 0% takeout on win bets at Saratoga on every Saturday in July, including this Saturday. So you can bet at a 0% takeout into the Saratoga win pool, in which the CAW teams are throttled down. That's about as player-friendly a bet as you can find in 2026, so take advantage of it if you can. As always, I welcome your feedback on Twitter/X. My handle is @Derby1592. That's @Derby1592. And this week, I am joined by special guest Jackson Muniz, the NYRA contest specialist, new in that role, and I've seen some positive changes in the contest, so looking forward for some more of those as Jackson gets more involved in that area. And we're going to have a detailed discussion about the Grade 1 CCA Oaks and races 8 through 12 at Saratoga this Saturday. And we'll focus on finding and exploiting value. We'll talk about our strongest handicapping opinions and how we might leverage those opinions using optimal betting strategies. Hi, Jackson. How's it going?
It's going good, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I always want to get try to have some new guests on, especially the younger guests. And I've listened to you talk about the races, break them down. You do a good job. So hopefully the listeners will enjoy having you on, and we'll maybe give them a few things to think about to incorporate into their play on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I am actually at Saratoga this weekend, and I've been fortunate enough to have just fantastic weather today, and it looks like it will hold through the weekend. So that's great. And I'm going to be at the track tomorrow, which is Friday. We're recording this on Thursday, and I'll be doing a book signing for my new book, Betting on Horses. So if you're going to be at the track, please come by. If you have a copy of the book, I'd be happy to sign it. If you want to purchase a copy, I'll have some there. And if you just want to come and talk horses, I'm happy to talk to anybody, especially listeners of, this podcast or the Bet with the Best podcast. And if you're not going to be at Saratoga, but you're interested in getting the book, you can go to Bet with the Best Media. That's Bet with the Best Media, all one word.com. And, I'm just really looking forward to tomorrow. The weather's going to be great. The racing will be great. And I'll get a chance to meet some new people and see some old friends, and just really looking forward to that. And hopefully I'll get to see you there as well. You're going to be on track, so maybe we can connect in person, because we haven't ever met in person. And so I'm looking forward to a big weekend. And we're going to talk about some of those races, not for tomorrow's card, but Saturday. But before we get into that, I like to have the guests talk about sort of their high-level approach to how They analyze races and how they decide which races they're going to bet and how they're going to bet them. So maybe share that with us.
Yeah, so like my approach has kind of evolved over the past couple of years, and the one obviously I have my new role with Naira Bets, and I'm handling all the contests we have now. And the one downside of that is I had to give up playing contests for the most part because that was kind of what I had pretty much been doing mainly as of late. Most of the majority of my betting dollars have gone into the contest world just because that's kind of what I was good at, and I was fortunate enough to have some really good friends who, very willing to teach me the way they do things. And I'm very close with Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, even Pete Thorntail, who I'm good friends with, and he has covered contests for a long time as well. So just been able to meet a lot of people who are so willing to share their insight with me and everything and how they approach contests. And that's kind of what I started doing as far as my betting goes. So I really got started playing the Twin Spires ones. And what I like most about the Twin Spires ones is that the struggle for me was always the dollar amounts. I think when I first was interested in contests, probably like 5 years ago now, most of them were $500 buy-ins, $1,000 buy-ins, and I was still in college at the time. I did not have that kind of money to be throwing around every single Saturday. So it was a good way to ease myself in, get my feet wet in those smaller buy-ins, and kind of work your way up. And I think my contest approach also kind of evolved over time as well. I think at first I was very much aligned with Matt Miller as far as almost, pretty much always having to have two entries and always sacrificing one for the other. And I still do that quite a bit as well. But I also evolved over time to where if I think I can get away with only having one, or if I think I have enough differing opinions that I feel strongly about, then I'll be willing to take my shots at different races, different horses, and be willing maybe to try to get two entries up towards the top, especially in the ones where you have feeders. I think it's different if the ones that are really, really top heavy, where you're trying to, you need to be a top three and there's 150 entries in these contests. But sometimes you have contests where you only need to be the top 25%. And those are the ones where I think, especially if you have a really strong opinion, I have no problem playing both entries exactly the same and trying to get both into the top 20% or whatever it may be. So contests are the way I've mostly been playing the races as of late. When I'm not playing the contest, it's usually pretty simple. I try to keep it win bets, doubles. I love the evolving pick three landscape with all the $3 ones that they have nowadays across pretty much every racing jurisdiction. It's one where it seems like retail players have a much stronger chance to win, as far as not playing against the CAWs at all, or at least their effects are lessened with the higher minimum and the lower takeout. So those are the ones I'm always trying to play if I have some strong opinions. And I'm also someone that likes to play those tickets very skinny, which doesn't always work quite as well if you're playing a pick five. It's hard to have single by two, by single by three, or whatever. It's not as difficult in a pick three if you feel strongly about it. I really just like to attack it and not waste. I try to hit these things with spending as little money as possible. So I think that's why the pick threes, especially with the higher minimums, they really force you to dig down and make sure that you have those strong opinions, because if you don't, your ticket can get really, really pricey. And then you take a step back and say, okay, well, maybe I don't like this pick three, but maybe there is a race in the sequence of the three where I feel strongly about, and then you just keep it simple and you just play a simple win bet.
Yeah, it makes lots of sense. And I say this all the time, that some players complain about the higher minimums, but even those players are actually benefiting from it, because they will almost be forced to make better, to write better tickets and tighten things up. And that's going to help their results long term. They may not hit as often, but they're going to have a better ROI. And also, you mentioned how those higher minimums tend to dampen the CAW team impact. even at the tracks that don't have any guardrails, that's one of the things, I've said repeatedly on this show that I really love that NYRA's doing this summer. And they've started, putting those guardrails up for all the pools, that they, all the betting pools. And, that just lowers the effective takeout on retail players quite a bit, probably more than just a low takeout bet would. And, I just don't, to me, I highly recommend that players focus on betting into pools where they are throttled to some extent. NYRA is the obvious place to go because they do it in all the pools, but a few other tracks limit that in certain pools, like a Del Mar in the Wynn pool. And if absent that, if you play in pools where there's the higher minimums and the lower takeout, both of those discourage CAWs. It's not as enticing for them to play if the takeout's lower. Their rebates aren't as high. The higher minimums make it harder for them to precisely extract value from the pool. So they're not as enthusiastically playing those, and you tend to get rewarded for a good opinion that separates you from the crowd that with the teams more active probably would be, you get less paid off than you will in those kinds of pools where they have those higher minimums. And then like I just mentioned, you're probably structuring your tickets in a way you're going to get paid better when you're right. You won't be right as often, but in discussions about betting, one, I think the big separator from just the first level player and the second level player is going beyond just trying to pick winners and figure out how to identify value, and so that you have a chance at making money long term. Now, some players never make that leap, and some don't really care. They have fun picking the winners. But if you're really trying to improve your results as a bettor, you really need to start looking for value and thinking about what the price should be, and are you getting that price? And then also in the more complex wagers, how you structure your tickets, because and the more complex wagers, especially things like pick fours and pick fives, you go beyond those pick threes or superfectas, things like that. How you bet probably is just as important or more important than your actual handicapping opinion. Win bet, maybe not so much because it's pretty straightforward, but pick five, you could have some great opinions and just basically throw away all your equity with bad ticket structure. And you see that all the time, in some of the tickets people will post, or you'll see, some of the racing analysts, they have great opinions, but their ticket structure probably could be improved quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll pick on my brother last week because I've been making fun of him for the past 5 days. I'm a Southern California guy. I've been going to Del Mar literally since I was 3 months old. And, my whole family went for opening day last week, and my brother sends me this ticket, and he had this incredible opinion on this I think the horse was 5-1, 6-1. And he singled it in the pick three, and it was one of the 50 cent or dollar ones. It wasn't the turf pick three. And the horse wins, and he has no dollars to win on the horse, a 5-1. Horse wins the first leg, and then he goes all of the next two races. And well, it goes favorite, and I think he made $3 on his entire bet. And I'm just I get so frustrated seeing that, because I'm like, dude, you have that good of opinion on the 5-1 shot. First of all, you gotta bet it to win. If you feel that strongly about it, you have to make sure if that horse wins, you're going to cash. And second of all, I don't know how you feel about the all button, Chris, but I always felt like if you truly have no opinion in those races, you're just so much better off than just take the 3 or 4 longest shots in those races and either play it for, you're going to spend less, or you press up those longer shots and go from there. I just think, again, when we're playing this, people like you and I, we're playing every week, every day sometimes, you got to be thinking more long term. Is this a good bet to turn a profit over the course of a year, rather than is this ticket going to hit today? I'm not worried about cashing today. I'm worried about turning a profit over the course of weeks or months or years.
Yeah, well, and the example you gave, to me, you don't make that bet. You stay out of the pick three pool. You don't have any opinion. Your opinion is in the one race. So just bet that horse And if you have a second opinion within that race, then play some verticals. But you don't have to play every pick three. That learning to pass races and pass bets and analyze the race and making sure you structure your bets so they're consistent with your opinion and you best leverage your opinion. That's what you want to do. So anytime you see a single all, it makes no sense at all to making that bet. And in terms of the all button in general, I have at the end of my book, Betting on Horses, I have a 10 commandments for horse players, and one of those is thou shalt not use the all button. So that's kind of how I feel about that one.
I agree.
There's always a better bet, a better way to express your opinion in the mutual windows than using the all button. I can't think of there's very few examples where I can. There's always one, right, where it might make sense, but in general, that's, I think, something you want to avoid. And I think you want to avoid playing complex wagers that you don't have an opinion in most of the races, right? That you shouldn't even think about playing that pick three unless you have at least two probably good opinions, and then maybe you can spread in one of the legs, but you should have it narrowed down pretty well on at least two of the three legs, right?
Right. And for me personally, like if I'm playing a pick three, I want to feel like I have three good opinions. I mean, that's kind of my rule. Unless it's some crazy, two bombs on either side, and you can be just trying to cover up the middle leg. That's probably the only scenario where I wouldn't feel like I have three good opinions.
Yeah. Although in that case, I can see where people like to play the, high minimum, low takeout pick three, and there's only one of them. But to me, yeah, you want to look at that. If you have two opinions in two of the races, I can say, yeah, you can probably, if you structure things right, that's okay. But I agree with you in general. I wouldn't even look at the pick three unless I had three consecutive good opinions, right? Or some opinion. It doesn't have to be a horse I like. It could be I hate the favorite in one of their legs, right? That's probably a great opinion but you want to have an opinion in probably all three of the legs to play the pick three. If not, just play the double, and if you only have it in one race, then bet it to win or play vertically. You don't want to bet the same way every time, because you can't possibly have the same kind of opinion every time you bet, right? You should try to structure your bet around the opinion rather than the other way around, force fitting your opinion into a certain kind of bet you like to make all the time. So
right, and bringing it back to the contest part, I think sometimes for whatever reason, for myself as a horse player, if I only have one really good opinion on the day, for whatever reason, let's say it's an 8-1 shot. Sometimes that 8-1 shot isn't acceptable enough. I need more juice. And the thing that contests allow you to do is you get access to that prize pool. And a lot of times, if you're right on that 8-1 shot, you're going to get paid extra money on top from the prize pool if you're right about that 8-1 shot. So that's the other thing I do like about contests, is they provide really good structure for planning out your day, setting what's the word?
Well, put some guardrails around your whole play, right?
Yeah,
and
just setting limits to what you're going to spend on the day, and making sure you're betting the most money on your strongest opinions. And because for whatever reason, Jackson, the contest player, is so much more disciplined than Jackson, the cash player on the side. I'm not going to do anything in a contest that might affect my chances of winning it, as far as making just silly bets and for minimums that have no reason to them, no rhyme or reason to them. So I'm going to make sure I'm doing everything in my power to maximize my best opinion on the day, whether it is on an 8-1 shot or whether it's on 6-5. It doesn't matter. I'm going to maximize that horse.
Yeah, it's good. It does. It helps give you some structure, rather than just playing completely wide open. And some people that's really good. Some people maybe it's not, but for most people, having some kind of structure helps. And if you're not in a contest, you can still kind of force some structure around your approach. And that's what I talk about in the book about, you need to have a process, because if you don't have some kind of process, it's really hard to improve, because you're doing things differently every time, how do you know if you're getting any better? And how do you know if your process is any good? So, I'm not saying there's one way to do it, but you need to come up with some way that works for you, and then continually kind of evaluate how you're doing and then tweak it over time, and that's how you get better. But if you're just doing it completely different from one race to the next or one day to the next, it's really hard to improve incrementally over time.
Right.
So we're going to talk about some races now, and you can talk about it from a contest perspective. That's fine. If that's the way you typically, prefer to think about it, you can talk about, okay, this is how I would play this in a contest. And, I'm always okay with this. I don't have any opinion in this race. I wouldn't be betting this at all. And that's why, I really want to focus on what the stronger opinions are and how you leverage those either in a contest or in a bet. Because I know there's a couple races on sequence that I probably would not be betting, and that may be the case for you as well. But there are some interesting races, as you usually get this time of year. The weather is going to be great. We don't have to worry at all about off the turf or anything, and we're going to cover the last 5 races on the card, and it kicks off with a pretty interesting race. The 8th race, it's an allowance race on the inner turf for 3-year-old fillies, going 1 1/16. And in this race, it's a pretty wide open. I mean, when you have the morning line favorites only 3-1, but the 12 horse Coca Motion looked really good on debut. Could be very talented. Did draw the 12 hole though, and lightly raced, and a lot of other interesting horses with upside. What do you think of Coca Motion as the favorite in here? And if not that horse, what are you thinking about? If you're looking elsewhere, who else are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it earlier about sometimes you don't necessarily have a strong opinion for a horse, but I think in this race, this is one where I would be trying to take on the favorites in here, including Coco Motion on the outside. And she was so impressive at Tampa Bay when she broke her maiden. It seemed like nothing went right for her that day, and she still found a way to blow the doors off that field. Came back at Tampa in the Great Stakes and ran perfectly fine in her second career start when she was chasing a fast pace, doing a lot of the dirty work, and ran really well to be third in there. The problem is nothing has gone right for her since. I think she's been scratched a number of times. She's missed workouts. Just nothing seems to be going right for her. Now she finds herself in post 12 in a race that has a lot of speed. She doesn't exactly have any kind of speed figure edge over any of these horses either. She's not a huge overwhelming favorite, but I'd be way against her in the spot. She can beat me. Same with Bella Nose, who's 4-1. She argued the best of closers, and she ran well last time, but I'm not quite sure how good that field was. The pace outside the winner. The winner's probably pretty good, but nothing behind her I don't think is that great. The pace completely fell apart. She's not for me in here. And then even like the Chad Brown runner, number 2, Crossover Capital. She was another one that was really impressive on debut. I don't think that was a very strong field. She didn't take any money whatsoever in there, and the number came back just okay. So this feels like a race where I don't have a huge opinion for a horse, but I do know I don't like these favorites. My top pick would probably be Soloist, the number 4 in here for Kenny McPeak. I know last time on the dirt she was beaten, but she was up on a fast pace. It's on the dirt. It's a race that I don't really put too much stock into. But the race 2 back in the Cleopatra at Horseshoe Indy, that was a tough trip she had. She was always wide. She was 4 wide the first turn, 4 wide the second turn, making up ground despite being wide on both turns. She gets bumped late, probably cost her second in there. I thought she ran perfectly fine in that spot against what was a pretty good field with East Jabip in there. You had FaZe Gold come back to win at Churchill Downs against a salty group. And I just think with the amount of speed in here, she's going to draft into a good trip, probably mid-pack, maybe a little bit closer than that, save a lot of ground, gets a really positive jockey switch to Jose Ortiz. And the other thing with her, too, is she's just never had an inside post on these turf races. She's always been wide, always losing ground. In fact, the only time she had an inside post, she won, and that's the only race she's won up to this point. So I would be using her. I think the 1, Bourbon Betty, ran really well last time, up on the lead against older horses and setting a really fast pace. Got run down by Eponine, I think is how you say, and Accent. Both of those fillies, I think, would be favored here. Those are much better older horses. She ran perfectly well in that spot. She could be the speed of the speed. And then Pacer is an interesting horse trying the grass for the first time, going sprint to route. I found a stat for Cherie. She's only done this 5 times, but first time sprint to route, first time turf. She's 3 for 5 with an ROI over $12. And I just think she's another one that's going to draft into a really good spot, sitting mid pack. And I'm not entirely convinced she wants to go the 2 turns, but she does have the pedigree for the turf. Pedigree for the 2 turns is okay. So I'll give her a shot. If I'm playing this race horizontally, I would probably just use those 3 all long shots and try to beat these favorites in here.
Yeah, I think we see this race very similarly. I also think Soloist is probably the bet. And the big thing being that the horse has just been in impossible post positions in all the recent turf starts and finally gets a good post. So this is the time to play this horse. You would think it should get a much better trip than it has recently. It has a good post, good rider, has, positional speed. The one's going to go to the lead, and the 2 horses inside of it, I don't think have nearly the same, tactical speed that this horse does. So I got to think the 4 is going to get a rail trip. With a good rider like Jose Ortiz, probably he'll work a good trip throughout. And that horse, I think, is much better than the results would indicate because of the tough trips it's been having. So I'm with you there. Bourbon Betty, this was the inner turf. I would think I would be playing Bourbon Betty. But even the Mellon course, she's going to be on the lead. And there is other speed in here, but a lot of times, especially in New York, when a rider gets aggressive, the other riders just cede the lead. And, this horse backed up off a really sharp pace and kind of was against the flow last time. So, she could be dangerous if they let her roll. And I agree with Paige Turner. I'm not sure because the route breeding isn't there, I don't think, and the pace will be likely sharp. Not quite as high on that one, but it's dangerous given the connections, and you don't know how good the horse is because it hasn't ever been on the turf or routing. So kind of a wild card for me. Not the kind I could really lean into, but I could use it at a price if I was like playing vertical plays and maybe horizontal. Mm-hmm. The only thing I would add maybe is a couple others. I agree with you on all the favorites. Although I might be a little higher on Coco Motion than you are. But from that 12 hole, I'm going to try to beat that one.
Yeah. She's really good. Don't get me wrong. I just think there are enough red flags with the price baked in. If I'm taking a little stand against her, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And I think it makes perfect sense. I'm totally with you. I'd say that might be the best horse in the race, but given that post and some of the other things you mentioned, I'm willing to take a shot against that one. Another horse, Vekoma Views, I think that horse, Vekoma View, really has had some tough trips in its last 2, really tough. I think the horse is a lot better than it would show off of those. Numbers aren't that high, but it's turf racing, like I said, really hasn't had a chance to show its best recently. That one I think is interesting, and I would probably include that one in my verticals. My key horse would probably be Soloist. And then one last one that I would consider is the 8-horse New Rose. Nothing special about her, but just fits in this race. It's just as good about as good as any of the other horses, and it could be a price. So, to me, this is one where I'm thinking from a betting standpoint, you try to beat those favorites, and for me, Soloist could be the key, and then, try to even make a big score if you can catch a couple of these other price horses in exotics with the 4 Soloists.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That Vekoma View 2 back at Gulfstream, she had a legit trip in there. I mean, she lost, I think, probably 2 to 3 lengths of ground at a pretty significant point in the race. I think if she had gone through cleanly, she would have been right there against the likes of Tam Tam. I mean, that's a pretty good filly. Yeah,
and I was a little surprised she was 10-1 in the morning line, but I think maybe it's like the class part of it is why she's 10-1. But this is probably a tough morning line to make. And if they fixate on one or two horses, which happens sometimes, some of these other horses could float up at pretty big prices, 20 to 1 plus kind of prices. I don't think Soloist will be that high, but even 10 to 1's a good price on that horse, I think. So in a contest, would this be the kind of race you would think about playing a contest, or are you looking for more certainty in the outcome for the kind you'd be betting in a contest?
It would depend on my other opinions in the card, obviously. I think if, let's say I had two entries in here, we're going to talk about race 9 in a second, but I believe there's a horse in there I have very, very, unfortunately, after scratches that got announced, I have very little interest in being the big favorite. So I think if I had two entries, I could probably just try to beat all three of these favorites in this first leg and just go in order of the horses I use. So like 4, 5, 1, your 6 I would put in there too. It's just as many horses as I think I could, as the math would allow me to use to get to whatever my target may be, playing those daily doubles into Bill. Spoiler alert for the next race. That's how I probably would approach it in this race. Yeah.
So you're kind of like, I can lean on the favorite in the next race. I can't win a contest with Bill, but if I can catch a price in a double with him, then maybe I can get the number I need to win. So that's what you're thinking.
Correct. Yeah. And with it being a double, obviously you're going to get added value on whatever double, whatever ticket hits. I mean, that's 10 to 1 is going to become 25 or whatever it might be. But you're not going to have it 25 to 1, obviously, because you're going to be spreading around quite a bit. But that you get the general idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And that's what kind of. There was one other point I wanted to make on this race, but I have lost my thought. I'm kind of running on fumes. I got in at 5 a.m. This morning, and I'm dragging a little bit. So some reason I lost my train of thought there, but we'll move on. You kind of spoiled. You kind of led with the 8 as the favorite built. Do want to mention, you mentioned scratches, the 2 Crazy Mason, the 4 Just Beat the Odds are, according to the trainer, going to be scratched. So it's a 6-horse field. Built was 8 to 5. Neither of those two were favorites, but just a smaller field. And you figure he's going to be even shorter than that. But, there are a few options. Damon's Mound at 4 probably be more like 2 to 1, 5 to 2 morning line with the scratches. And he's maybe an option. There's a few other horses in here, but it sounds like you're all about Built in here. So why do you feel so strongly about him in this race?
Yeah, to be honest, Chris, I was ready to take him on with Just Beat the Odds because I just don't see a whole lot of speed in here. Obviously, with that horse coming out of the race, it takes out the main speed. And Bill, with this outside post, he's a horse that doesn't come from the clouds. He's always up on top of the pace anyways, with the advantage of the outside post, with his tactical speed. I just think if he shows up on all the speed figures I'm looking at least, he's faster than these horses. And as long as he takes the Saratoga dirt, he's probably supposed to win this thing, barring some unexpected jump forward from someone else. But I don't really know who that might be. There's not really an interesting lightly raced horse that's got some improving pattern here. I guess maybe him would be that horse that's kind of improving, but he's one that does his best work from off the pace. And as I kind of mentioned, I just don't see a whole lot of speed. I guess the one thought I had was that maybe Damon's Mound and T-Craft could hook up because those could maybe be the 2 speeds. But then I realized they're both trained by Bill Mott, so that seems kind of unlikely. So it just seems like Damon's Mound's going to come out of the gates running from the rail. Bilt's going to be glued to his hip, and I think Bilt is just the better animal.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that Mott has both, and they're probably not going to get hooked up in a duel. And if they don't, they'll probably control the race. Doesn't mean they're a lock to win, but certainly it doesn't. Damon's Mound doesn't seem impossible to me. I mean, especially if they decide to just let him go and have Bilt just comfortably stalking him. If he's got a lot left in the tank turning for home, Bilt might not be able to get past him. That I think that would be the main threat, would be a stablemate probably.
Right. Yeah, Damon's Mount has to go. I mean, he's got one way to win this thing. He's got to send this horse to lead and see what he's got.
Yeah. So not this. I don't really have a strong opinion. This would be one of those races we talked about earlier that I'd be passing unless I really wanted to play some horizontal bet, which I don't. So this would probably be just a race I'd be watching. But I kind of like the way you're trying, and from a contest perspective, you feel pretty strongly about Built. The problem is, I mean, your doubles may not pay that good into Built with a 6-horse field if he's going off at 3 to 5. You might have to be pretty tight on the double even to get whatever target you're shooting for, I think.
Yeah, I think it depends. And I will say, I think beating what I would expect at least to be the 3 favorites in the race before might make it okay. I think if I can probably if I had 2 entries, I think I could probably use about 4 horses.
It is a 12-horse field too, assuming there's no scratches in the prior race. That helps a lot. That big field kind of counterbalances the smaller field in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have to take a look at the price and stuff, but that'll be a kind of interesting way to play that. So now we get into the other dirt race in the sequence, and that was I kind of shortchanged. It was a Grade 2 Vanderbilt. I didn't really introduce that race very well, but this is the Grade 1 Coaching Club American Oaks, or CCA Oaks, and it's a dirt race going 1 1/8 miles, and it's got some pretty horses with solid credentials in here. I will mention the 3 La Ricasa is out. Had some minor issue, had to scratch, which is too bad because that was a horse I liked in here. So that one is out. But you've got Counting Stars and Always a Runner going against each other again. Those will be the 2 favorites. And you got some other kind of new shooters. And you have Zany, who I think is cross-entered at Monmouth. I'm not sure which they're going. Have you heard anything about which race they're going to go with her?
Rapoli said she's running at Saratoga.
Okay, so that makes sense. Rapoli likes to run at Saratoga. So, she was, arguably the horse everyone was kind of touting early on, but she has been a little disappointing so far this year, but she's certainly talented. And you got some other horses. So what are you thinking about this race?
Well, originally I thought it would just kind of seem like a 2-horse race between the two obvious ones and Counting Stars and Always a Runner. They've been very good all spring and into the summer. It felt like the race ran through them. But with the 3-horse coming out of here, it does feel like it kind of opens up this race potentially just a little bit for a 3rd horse, because that was a big speed horse coming out of the race. And maybe, just maybe, Directive can be the one that can control his pace up front, get really, really comfortable up there and take this field a long, long way. She's got to get better. I mean, there's no doubt about it. She's not quite as fast as the top 2, but it's not some huge margin. We're only talking about a few points in here. And I do think there is an argument to be made that last time, maybe you can bump up that race just a tad. It did seem like on Belmont Stakes week, especially early on in the week, that the inside was the place to be. And not that she was way out in the center of the track or anything, but she was never on the rail. She got a little goofy late, which can sometimes be a sign of a tired horse, which isn't great, but maybe she's just kind of figuring things out too. And she did gallop out way in front of the field after she was swapping back and forth on the leads. So she's a little green. Maybe she can take this field a long, long way. And I just think, if trying to get into the head of these riders in here, like Counting Stars, I guess, would be her main pace rival. But I don't think Counting Stars, Irad Ortiz, is going to want to get hooked up with that horse, knowing he's got Always a Runner behind him somewhere. I think Irad's probably going to just let that horse go. He's going to be way more concerned about Always a Runner behind him. And Directive is going to have things up front her own way. We'll find out if she's good enough. But I think if we're talking about a horizontal sequence in here, this is the kind of horse I like to get just ice cold single to, because all of the money is going to run through these 2 big favorites in here. This horse Directive might be 5-1 on the toe board, but she'll play much higher than that in any kind of horizontal.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. I mean, she definitely is the one with the most upside now that La Ricasa is out. And Chad has two horses, including one of the favorites, always a runner, and that one could use some pace in front of it. So you got to figure their plan will be to send Directive. And like you said, if she clears and relaxes, they may not be able to catch her. But I do think she's going to be on the lead, and if nobody else is aggressive, it could be very dangerous. So I like the way you're thinking. And
What do you like there, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think you could get the 5 or 6 to 1. And although because the pace is a little murky, maybe other people will think that way. And Zany will probably take some money too. That horse has been a little bit of a head scratcher so far this year. But certainly, she ran some big races before. But you just got to wonder, what is she one of these fillies that just didn't, progress any from as a 3-year-old? So we'll see.
Yeah. Are you who do you like in this race, Chris? Did you have your eye on someone?
No, this is another race where I really don't have any opinion. I like the 3, Laura Costa.
That's right.
That was who I would have been playing in here. I think that horse, and the connections. The trainer just wins and wins and wins and wins with any kind of horse, and she really hasn't done anything wrong. And in this field, I thought you would get that price because she has not proven at this class level, and she may not be good enough. But what I saw, she could improve off of that, and would have been a player in here and would have been a price. And I thought she might be able to control the race, although I did think, Chad having the Directive in there probably would make her earn it. She'd have to be good, good to win it. But then I don't have to worry about that anymore because she's scratched. So these 2 dirt races in the sequence, I really don't have any opinion, which is why I probably would not be interested in playing any kind of pick 5 in here. I'd be probably just watching those 2 races.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I don't like Zany in here, but I'm just really curious to see how she runs because there was so much hype about her this spring. I mean, she was favored in the Kentucky Oaks, and I guess people kind of argue she had a bit of a trip in there. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but I'm just curious to see if she's this time off has done her some good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see her run well, but I certainly wouldn't be betting her at her likely price.
No.
So it sounds like this race, though, you like Directive in that, and this is the kind you might play in a contest, I would think.
Yeah, this would be the other one I would consider playing in the contest. And again, if I had 2 entries, my decision would be, well, I think if I had 2 entries, I would probably this would be the race I would focus on. I would play an all-in double with Built into this.
Right. I was going to say probably Built and Directive would be the obvious play, right?
And hopefully I get alive to that. And with my second entry, I can come back and play. I don't like always a runner here. I worry that she's potentially gone off form. I think County Stars beat her pretty easily last time. So assuming I got alive to Directive, I'd probably just come right back and play County Stars over Directive in an exacta and just make Directive my key horse. And depending on what that pays, if that's either going to be all in or if I can afford someone else on top of Directive, then maybe I can do that as well.
I like it. The other way you might do it is if you had 2 entries, play one of them with doubles into Built, and then if you're live, you just wait. Then you can decide what to do with the other entry. If you're not, then you play it back in a double to Directive. That might be another way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And, doubles are a good way to leverage your opinion without doing anything crazy, right? If you really do have an opinion in 2 consecutive races, the double's great. From a takeout perspective, it's great. You just don't want to start getting spready with doubles either.
Correct.
It should be kind of you really have 2 strong adjacent opinions, or it's a gravy bet on, an opinion in one of the races. But you don't want to be just like trying to hit every double kind of thing. That's not a good way to go.
No, that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And you don't want to just be playing doubles because then you could be hitting every other race and not make a cent.
Yeah. Well, it's Saratoga. I mean, it's hard to hit one race. I know these last two dirt races look relatively formful, but the rest of the card that we haven't talked about, I mean, they're just wide open race after wide open race. And these last two are exactly the same.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the 11th next, the Allowance, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. State bred filly and mare 3-year-olds and up. Like you said, this is a challenging race, a big field. Another one where, there's not a heavy favorite at 7-2 is the 12-horse Fairy Godmother, who, there's things to like about that horse, but the 12-hole and a turf sprint is not an easy place to win from. So kind of like Coco Motion was in that first race in the sequence. Now, is this a favorite you're looking to try to beat? And if so, who do you like in here?
Yeah, I think I would try to beat her in here in the spot. I know she had trouble last time, but I kind of want to see her run that fast number again. I didn't really know what to do with that race, but you just don't see too many horses win turf sprints by 6 lengths, and not to mention she won from last basically that day. I mean, it was just such a bizarre performance. So I want to make her prove to me again at a short price. My opinion here, though, is it does feel like there's just a ton of speed, and I think this pace has the potential to get really, really hot. You have the 4 Moonlight Ready, the 5 Tariga, Miss Jane Hathaway, the 6 Dancing with Destiny, and then horses towards the outside too, like Honest Reason at 20-1. If the 13 gets in, another horse that's always been on the lead when she runs well. I was looking for an off the pace type besides Fairy Godmother. I went to the 3 Tut Hilltown, maybe is how you say it. First off,
that's how I would say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that. But this filly has only turf sprinted twice, but she finished second last fall in November as a 2-year-old. She was second by a head, and then last time she did have to drop down to a softer spot, but the pace was not fast that day, and she absolutely crushed that field. She won by over 3 lengths. The runner-up, Garden of Grace, actually came back today and won the nightcap, so that form has kind of been flattered just a little bit. And I know she's probably a little slow in speed figures, but that doesn't really matter to me too much, because the scenario where she runs well in this race is if the pace it really, really heats up and falls apart. That's when she's going to be able to make some noise in here. So I don't really care if she's 5 points slow on the figures. I'll take my chances on her that this is what she's wanted to do all along. 12-1 is plenty good enough. This would probably just be a win bet.
Yeah, again, on these turf races, we're on the same page. I like that horse quite a bit. I think the 2 turf races have been very good and hasn't really had ideal trips in either race, I didn't think. And, the claim, I always like horses when they get claimed. That it's usually a good sign. And this barn does pretty well with claims and gets a good rider switch, I think. I think there's an upside there. It gets a good post. And it does seem like there's plenty of speed. And it's not a horse that is going to fall way back. It's not like a plotty type. There's a couple of those in here. So, there's always a little bit dicey coming from off the pace. But for me, at that price, if that holds up, double-digit odds, that's, for me, clearly the value in the race. So we're on the same page there. What else in here? Any other opinions you have other than you're willing to try to beat Fairy Godmother? Anybody else in here that you want to hook up with and maybe some vertical plays, or maybe include in a horizontal if you're making any of those bets?
Yeah, I'm not a huge place better. I mean, maybe this would be the type to do it since she might be, double-digit odds. But I would much rather prefer to pick 2 or 3 horses on top to use over her in exactas. I think the horse that scares me the most is Dancing with Destiny. Maybe she's got the potential to be the speed of the speed. I think both of her races as a 3-year-old were quite good. The comeback race, she set a fast pace in a race that completely fell apart. And the last time she came back on closing day at Aqueduct was chasing again, and was just second best to Boston's Finest, who came right back last week and improved by like 15 points, won again, and beat older horses. So she was not disgraced at all in that spot. So I would probably bet the 7 over the 3 in exactas. and I'd probably use a little 9. She's Artiz is one I kind of like last time coming out of that same race as Dancing with Destiny in that spot. She just did not get her preferred trip. She's another one that'll be a price. And actually, you know what? Maybe I'll see what the payouts are, but maybe I can afford Fairy Godmother as well because it's such a large field that 7-2 over 12-1. I mean, that might be, I don't know, $70 for a buck. It should pay well.
Yeah, I could see maybe playing it. And I agree with you that very seldom is a place bet a good bet. Typically, you must even if you think all the other horses are as likely to win, all equally likely to win, then you should just be getting rid of the favorites because you'll get better payouts to place. And if you like 2 or 3 other horses in the race, then those are the ones you should be playing over it. I think it's just a lot better way. Using the exacta as a saver is a lot better than a place bet. And for longer priced horses, you can get pretty good payouts in the 2 spot and in an exacta, if you're getting double digit odds. Even if you think the favorite, this is a race where the favorite's strong, but you think maybe you can beat it, but if you don't and your horse runs, probably, the favorite would be the one that finished ahead. You can save under that favorite. That's not a bad play. Like if Fairy Godmother drew a better post in here, probably I would say she's clearly the one to beat. And I might be, thinking I'll play Hilltown to win, but I would use that one as an exacta underneath Fairy Godmother. So I think you're right. That's a better way to play it than the place bet typically.
Yeah, I agree. And it goes back to just trying to spend as little as possible too, is at least the way I approach it. And a lot of times not a lot of times, it is going to pay more if you're right about your horses that you have on top.
Yeah. And, and then if you want it, if your main bet would maybe be to win on Ted Hilltown, but you could, if you like some of these price horses you mentioned, you could just play it in exactas with those or tries even, and trying to beat the favorite, right? That's a kind of a gravy bet on top of the win bet. So that's the other way you can kind of press if you do have a second opinion. If you don't, then you just, leave it alone, just play it to win. There's nothing wrong with just making a win bet too. So
no, never. That is always a good option. Always.
And you can always be looking at doubles into the adjacent races too. So, or the prior race. So, all right. Anything else on that before we go to the payoff leg? It's the standard Naira last leg impossible turf race. This case, it's a maiden claiming 2-turn on 8.5 furlongs or 1 mile and a 16th on the inner, which has been kind of a speed rail kind of track so far during the meet. And today, fortunately for me, it held up. I caught a really nice price. So in this race, Leave Me is the 2-1 favorite. Are you going to lean on this one? Or are you going to look elsewhere?
I'd probably look elsewhere in this race. And I got to tell you, Chris, if we're looking at it from a contest perspective, this would be a contest where I would want to be in first heading into this last race.
You don't want to have to win it on this one?
No, I want someone else to have to cash this race. And if they do and they beat me, I'll just shake their hand and say good job, because this is an impossible race. I have no idea. I would not use a 7 in here. Leave Me. I know he is dropping in class. I thought he got just a phenomenal ride last time from Dylan Davis. He got him in the perfect spot. He was in the pocket, swung him out wide top the stretch, and he really felt pretty flat and down the lane. I'm not going to be surprised if he wins, but he's not for me. And with Irad Ortiz riding, he's just going to be way overbet in this spot. So honestly, I think I would try the 2, the first time starter for Rob Falcone. Unfortunately, I was only able to watch one workout video on this horse. I wish there was a second to view, because the one I saw was perfectly fine. It wasn't anything special, but I did think he got the best of the workmate in that one. The workmate was also unraced, but he did cost about, I believe it was $250,000. So he's going up against an expensive workmate. He had that kind of high knee action that usually translates well to the grass, and it just feels like this race is kind of begging for a fresh pace. And it's probably a good sign that Flavien Prat picks up the mount for these connections. Inside post. Again, not a strong opinion by any means, but if I was playing this race, that's probably, I would just probably have a little action win bet on him.
Yeah, I actually thought his work was really good. So I thought it was a good workout, but I usually am a little reluctant to play first time starters going 2 turns on the turf, but the horse drew well. It has worked well. I have a feeling though getting Pratt is going to impact the price.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that 8-1 on that horse. But yeah, I can see, there's no standouts in here. Of course, there's a lot of horses in here that have excuses and haven't raced much, so they have upside. But I wouldn't talk you out of that bet. I just have a feeling that horse is live. It's going to take some money probably. So
Chris, let me ask you this, Chris. Where do you draw the line between finding value on these first-time starters and seeing this horse getting bet as a good sign? Like if this horse is 4-1, would you still consider betting him because clearly there's some signal there, or is that just too low for you in a race like this?
In a race like this, I wouldn't. I think there's other options that are better. There's just so many unknowns, but I would probably say I like a price horse in here. I would use the 2 in exotic bets and probably underneath that one just in case it really is good. But I wouldn't be my key horse. I might be willing to use it, but I for me there's just not enough information for me to make a strong line on this horse. If it doesn't get bet, I couldn't play it because that makes me a little nervous given the rider and the workout. And if it does get bet, I just doesn't mean it means he's well meant and he's probably a good horse. Doesn't mean it's going to win first time going 2 turns on the turf. A lot can go wrong,
Correct.
So I would have a hard time ever, probably ever betting a horse like that to win. But I might use it if, and there's a couple horses in here. One in particular I kind of like. So I might be using that in vertical bets if I played the race. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
no, that makes perfect sense. Who's the horse that you like?
Well, first, is there anybody else you like in here? And then I don't want to steal any thunder you might have before I weigh in.
I thought the only other interesting horse in here, and honestly, it's probably a past race, but the 9 at least had some good races last year as a 2-year-old that were fast enough to win against what this group is running now. Obviously, he was not nearly as good in his comeback race, but maybe he's one that just really needed to start. Maybe they were really targeting the Saratoga meet, and his barn is going really well right now to start. He gets Lasix. He has speed in a race that, at least on paper, really lacks some early tempo. So he'd be the other one I'd be looking at. But again, it's not a race I'm trying to crush, I don't think.
Yeah, second after the layoff, I always like that. I like the jock switch there, so I could get behind that one some. I see, to me, that one has a chance. 8-1's probably not enough for me to really get excited, but there's potential there. The horse I like is the 1 Dingy Bar, who drops down into a maiden claimer. Hasn't really run very well this year, but had some good races last year. And it's a kind of horse that needs, a trip. But I have a feeling it's going to get completely overlooked in here. And, just off its 2-year-old form, I think it's capable of winning. And this is the kind of race where these kind of horses could wake up. They are putting blinkers on for the first time. The barn does pretty well when they drop it into maiden claimers, draws the rail. So to me, in a horse, I think that could float up above the 12-1. That's the kind of horse in this sort of chaotic race that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I like it. He didn't really have much chance last time either because there was just no pace for him up front. So if third start off the bench, he could definitely move forward. Blaker's going back on.
Yeah, hasn't really done much this year to warrant enthusiasm. Although I would say, its first try was, just more of a prep. And the last one was a little bit disappointing, but like you said, didn't have the greatest of setups. And it gets the rail, which is not a bad place to be. And Katie Davis isn't a great rider, but she has been riding okay at the meeting. So I've had a couple good rides from her and a couple not so good. So, but this horse should be able to save ground early, and could be a big price in here. But
yeah, we're talking about a 15-1 shot. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that's not with a ton of enthusiasm, but that to me, there's enough to like in that where I could play it in a race like this where nothing really scares me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's a tough way to end the card, man.
Yeah, but if you want to play any horizontal plays at Naira tracks, you got to get used to these kind of races because
that is true.
They finish every one of them off. Or if you're in a contest, you're probably gonna have to do something if you're in contention here. And like you said, you might want your strategy may be to hopefully be in the lead when you get to this race, and then you can make a few plays just to maybe move the target a little bit for people. But this is a tough one. Although it is one where you could save a little bit, and maybe get lucky at the end in a race. So.
Yeah, if you're look, that 7 is 2-1 on the morning line. I think you could go a lot lower than that. Just looking at the rest of this field and what I would expect the public to do. Not the worst plan in the world if you're against that favorite to try to just string a little something together. It's not going to take much.
Yeah, the switch to Irad in there, that horse probably is going to take money. I think the Pratt Burster will take money too. If that horse had a different rider, I'd be more interested in it. Mm-hmm. Just because I think there's maybe a chance that the crowd might not overvalue. But with Pratt in there, I have a feeling there's not much chance that horse will be any value in the pools. Unless it just can't lose, unless it falls over or something. But there's no way you and I can know that. So
no, I mean, if he opens up at 8-5, then yeah, there might be some signal there. But then again, don't know if you want to be betting him at 8-5.
Yeah, right. Now maybe if you had him in already had it in the pick 5 or something, then good for you. So man, I could see maybe using it, and if you're playing a pick 5 or something. But as a win bet or a key in this race, I wouldn't touch it. But there are people that love to bet those kinds of horses, and I'm just not one of them. Yeah, that's what's great about this game, though. Everybody can find their own strengths and weaknesses, and kind of play to those, and figure out how to best take advantage of what you've got, and not try to be like anybody else. Figure out your path to success in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my friend Chris Couples, who won the Pegasus contest earlier this year, he was telling me a couple of weeks ago there was his Burster at Churchill, had these amazing works, and there was also a Flightline horse who was ridiculously overbet because every single Flightline progeny had been ridiculously overbet. And he was in the contest and went all in on his other horse, and the other horse won, paid like $17, $18, and he won the contest. And he did all the work. That's what he's really, really good at. He had the confidence to do it and took advantage.
Yeah, and that is, but his strongest opinion was against the Flightline horse, probably. So, yeah, in that case, if you've got, a really bad, you think is a really overbet favorite, then that changes things a little bit. Like if you thought Leave Me was going to be 4-5 in here, and everybody else's odds get pushed up, and there's one or two horses, maybe even the first, or that's a little bit different, because then you might be getting value not because of the way that horse is getting bet, but the way the other horse is getting bet, right?
Right. Yeah, and speaking of overbet horses, I know we didn't talk about race 1, but there is my racehorse Flightline filly. That horse is going to be murdered at the tote board. I can't wait.
So that's race 1.
Yeah.
So there you go. You just you got to figure out how to leverage that opinion. Problem for me is I like to have some other opinions beyond just that. Yeah. And those are the kind of races it's hard to do that. But if you're like Chris was in that race where there's a horse he liked, then you're going to get some built-in value because of that, right? So
Correct. Just
um,
gotta find that other opinion.
yeah, you got to do the work on the and for these maiden races nowadays at these 2-year-olds at Saratoga, watching those workout replays is one way to get a better handle on what those horses can do.
Oh, it's huge, especially if you're good at it, and especially, I think something I've noticed, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, Chris, is it really feels like the Saratoga two-year-olds are just bet almost blindly off of the DRF clock reports. So if you can find a horse that you think is working really well, and the clock report kind of disagrees with that, I think that's when you can really, really capitalize if you're right about the horse that you think is working well.
Yeah, that and the connections. So like horses, clocker report, a good clocker report, and kind of sexy connections. Those horses are always going to get way overbet. To me, those are like the standard. They're overbaked into the odds kind of horses. So I could never bet one of those, no matter how much steam they have, because I think they're almost always overbet. That doesn't mean they don't win a lot of races. They because they're probably good horses, but there's not any value in betting them, and that's the way you have to think about it. And now you may want to use that horse in horizontal bet if you like. If you're gaining equity in other legs. But to me, betting those kind of races off of a clocker report and the connections, those typically aren't going to. There's not going to be any value in that. That's almost always baked into the price.
Yep, I agree.
But if you, like you said, can watch some workouts and you find something that maybe is not in the DRF, because the thing about the DRF clock reports or any clock reports, they don't catch them all their all works, right? They can miss some. Although what I've learned is they never miss any of them that are video workouts, which tells me they're just watching the videos. They're not really at the track clocking the horses, because you almost never see them miss those. But if it's not on video, then there's a good chance they might not have caught that, because their job's almost impossible especially at Saratoga, where there's like these horses breaking off, working all over the place. I don't know how those guys do it. There's 2 jobs where I watch. I just amazed that anyone can do it. One's being a clocker at a busy track, how they can possibly time races and keep track of those horses and know which horse is which. Just mind blowing to me. And then at a craps table, how the croupier or whatever his name is, keep track of all those bets with chips flying all over the table. It's like, how do they do that? So I
have no idea how those guys, they keep track of every single one of those bets. It's incredible. And I can barely keep track of my pass line bet. I don't understand how these guys do it.
Yeah, they're impressive. That's one of the jobs that I don't think I could ever do, that it just impresses me whenever I'm at a casino watching. And when you're at a busy table, one that's got a lot of energy around it, those guys, the chips are everywhere and they're on top of it. I don't know how they do it. Not sure how we got onto that topic, but you talked about the rest of the card. Is there some other spot play that you're high on the card earlier in the card?
I'm not in love, but race 6, emerging market, I should say, is entered in an allowance race. And I'm not going to be surprised at all if he wins, but these Derby horses, these Triple Crown horses are just always way over bet. It's not like he's got some big pace advantage. It's not like he's got some big speed figure edge over that group either. I would probably try Winstock in there for Brad Cox. I know his form recently is a little dirtied up, but last time out, he was wide against a huge gold rail, total toss. Race 2 back, he was going 1.5 miles, and also in the slop where he's kind of struggled with historically, so I'm forgiving of that effort. The 2 races in the Brad Cox barn, over a fast track at 9 furlongs. He won both of those. You earn speed figures that are fast enough to win this race and actually make him the horse to beat. So if he's really going to be 5-1 in there, I would probably take a stab with him.
Yeah, I like that. Plus, it's going against older horses too. So he gets a weight break, and he has the upside. And Chad Brown was certainly high on him going into like the Derby. But Chad Brown is not on fire right now on dirt racing at Saratoga. So
It's been a struggle for him.
Yeah, I kind of like it. And, taking on the older horses, not that these are like top level older horses, but, they are older horses. They're more mature and they run faster races than in some cases than he has. So he's got to improve probably to win.
Right.
So that's the kind of favorites you want to bet against, right?
Yep. And if they win, oh well, there's a race coming up later that are going to be able to bet.
That's right. All right. Well, anything else, or does that kind of wrap things up? Hopefully the weather's going to be perfect again tomorrow, and I'll be out doing my book signing. So anybody at the track, again, I encourage you. I'll be the gate B, the main entrance. If you go in there, if you walked a few hundred yards to the right, you'll see some tables set up. One of those will be mine. I'll have a big banner that has the cover of my book on it, and I'll be there to chat with any of you want to talk about racing. You want to get a book, you can. If you have a book and you want me to sign it, bring it along. But I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Should be a fun day. And then Saturday, the races we talked about. I'll probably won't be betting as much tomorrow as I normally would because I'll be busy, but I'll be firing away on Saturday. And so hopefully this discussion will get both of us and the listeners thinking a little bit differently about the races, and hopefully they can cash some tickets, find some value and cash some tickets.
Yeah. So, do you mind if I do a quick plug, Chris?
Sure. Go for it.
Yeah, so first of all, if you're at the track on Friday, definitely go check out Chris's book signing. I believe it's at the Jockey Silks Porch. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, should be right over there. So check it out. I'm going to go say hi. Very excited to get a copy of the book as well because I've listened to basically every single one of those Bet with the Best podcasts. It's tremendous information on there. As far as what we have over at Naira Bets, this Saturday we are seeding the $300 contest with $2,500 into the prize pool. And we will also be running feeders into next Saturday, August 1st, the Jim Dandy Challenge. That's going to be a big one this summer. That buy-in is going to be $1,000. And we will be seeding that contest on August 1st with a BTBTT. So check it out. Qualifiers running Naira Bets and also on horse tourneys.
Yeah, and with the seeded money, it's like a plus EV bet, and you don't directly compete with the CAW teams, and you get the added fun of competing against your peers on a level playing field. So, contests are a great, are one of the few positive changes for horse players we've had in, the last 20, 30 years. And, I really encourage people to take advantage of it. There's a lot of different price points, a lot of different formats, and there's got to be one out there that will fit you. And if you want to learn more about how to be successful in contests, I got a whole section of it in my book, talk about all the different types and how you can figure out which ones are probably the best for you, and got a lot of wisdom from a lot of successful contest players on how to approach those. So, I really encourage people to look into playing in contests. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. I think you'll like it, and there's a lot of room for growth. And the racetracks, it took a while, but especially recently seems to be a lot more interest in trying to build the menu of contests at ADWs like Naira Bets. And so I'm really looking forward to, Jackson, in your new role. I think I'm already seeing some improvements and looking forward to seeing more. And, that's a big positive for players. So take advantage of that, especially when they seed the pools. You can't beat that. I wish that tracks would do more seeding of the pools or reducing the takeout in their regular betting as well, because, that price is important. So pay attention to that and take advantage of it when you can.
Yeah, I agree. And not to mention, they're a ton of fun. It's fun playing against your buddies. It's fun seeing your name on the leaderboard, and it's always a good time.
It is. It does. It's an added dimension that just makes it that much more fun, that much more enjoyable, that much more of a challenge.
Yep.
So it adds a whole new layer that you have to think about on top of everything else, which I've always found appealing, and obviously a lot of other players do as well. So good luck if you are betting the races this weekend. Good luck if you're playing in contests. And that should wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Jackson, for joining me, and to all the listeners for following the show. all the people who supported me in the book. It's been great. Very, very satisfying. And if you're at Saratoga tomorrow, Friday, come by and see me and say hello. So that'll conclude show number 371 of the Sport of Kings podcast. Good luck this weekend, and please enjoy the Brooklyn Boogaloo Blowout. Cheers. That's a wrap.